So I'm going to give an official welcome to everybody that is joining us right now on the YouTube live stream. Thank you for making it out today over your lunch hour. We really have an amazing presentation today. I'm so excited to share the story that has come right now from the USDA Forest Products Lab, where they are taking wastewater from their water softeners, salt brine discharge, and using that as a de-icer in the winter. So I'm Madison with Wisconsin Saltwise, and yeah, we've got a great Wednesday webinar for you today. I think you might have caught, as I was explaining to our hosts here, that we are going to have this webinar archived on our YouTube, so you can always find it along with any of our Wednesday webinars on the Saltwise YouTube channel. So as you listen, please feel free to type any questions, comments that you have for our speakers into the chat, and then we will take those questions at the end of the webinar. So with that, I will pass it off to our great team.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Catherine Drake. I am a program assistant at Forest Products Lab, and I will actually be doing most of the presenting today with some, I guess, commentary as well from my coworkers, Kevin and Bob, who helped put this project together. I pretty much just did most of the coordinating and paperwork and all of that stuff for the project. They did most of the work amongst themselves, putting all of this together. When we started this project almost over a year ago, really it started off with Kevin coming to me and Bob, or going to Bob about this idea after seeing his, going to a Saltwise class. And Bob pretty much just asked me, hey, how do we get this going? What do we need to do the paperwork? And that's how I kind of got involved, as well as, just kind of, like I said, coordinating paperwork and all of that to kind of get this going for them. We'll start with have Kevin introduce himself and kind of also explain, how he got started and brought it to us.
So, am I up?
Yep.
So yeah, I'm Kevin Kramer. I'm the snow removal engineer for the Forest Products Lab. Upon the request of Mr. Ramos, I took a Saltwise, two Saltwise classes, the roads and lots, and then the sidewalks one. In one of the classes, they talked about the manager from Steve Brown Apartments, who figured out a way to basically just put like a hose on the discharge from his water softener system to collect the brine off that, and used it for their sidewalks. So with that, I took that to Bob, Mr. Ramos, and I said, hey, we could just hook up a hose and get some of this brine. And because Allison had mentioned in the class that the Madison Metropolitan Sewerage District is having a difficult time with everybody running water softeners now. They're having a hard time getting the salt out of the discharge water before they kick it to the effluent stream. So I went to Bob, like I said, and said, hey, why can't we do this? And Bob took it from there and came up with this phenomenal project, and just took it from there and expanded on it. It's not you, Bob.
I am Bob Ramos, Facility Operations Specialist here at Forest Products Laboratory. And yeah, you can see it paid sending Kevin to a Saltwise class, and to come back with information and how we can implement it here at the laboratory. So the one nice thing that we have at the laboratory is we have a lot of in-house help. We have electricians, we have plumbers, we have welders, machinists. So when Kevin came back to me and wanted to know if there was something that we could do, I felt pretty comfortable saying, yeah, there's definitely, we just have to, I would have to sit down and take a look and see what's out there as far as like how we want to do it. Do we want to use a timer to collect during a regen, or do we actually want to put in a sensor and see what the salination levels are, and that would divert from the drain into a container to catch the brine instead of going down the drain into a tank, so we could use it during the winter. So we are a little bit fortunate that way, where it allowed me to go out and take a look and see what could be done and have a lot of it done in-house. And we also had a building automation system that runs a lot of our air handlers and stuff like that. So I felt pretty comfortable as far as not only adding this, but also to automate it, so we can track it, trend it, and set it up, and it would just do what it needs to do. So and it was fun. It was a good project. It was and I know Catherine definitely put in a lot of work on it, filling out grants and whatnot, and tracking every step and taking pictures every step of the way. So yeah, it was a good project.
So as a note, just like Bob had mentioned, we actually took advantage of the chloride reduction innovation grant that Madison Sewer District had available. So like he said, taking care of that grant paperwork and getting that, applying for the grant to help pay for a lot of this project. And it was very advantageous to have that support with MSD and getting us a little extra funding. You know how the government can be. You know, we can always use a little bit of extra to help us out with some of these projects that we do. So and I'll talk a little bit about what our budget was and the cost of everything when I go into the slides. So now that we've introduced ourselves, I will go ahead and start with our slides and kind of tell you about our system here. Okay, pushing buttons. All right, so to start off, our brine collection system. I have a little bit of a lag, so give me a sec. There we go. So the purpose and goal of this project was to build a system to collect the water softener discharge from our water softeners, reducing the chloride discharge from going into the sewer system, and utilizing it as salt brine to pre-treat and treat campus roadways. Reuse of the brine is expected to reduce the runoff of salt into local groundwater and lakes, and reduce or eliminate the costs incurred by purchasing rock salt or other de-icing products. The Forest Products Lab used approximately 27 tons of rock salt during the 2019-2020 winter. This was before we started going into this salt brine project, collection project. And the cost was approximately $2,835. As the snow melts, though, the salt is then absorbed into the groundwater or dispersed into the area lakes as runoff. The FPL water softening systems produce about 168 gallons of calcium chloride and sodium chloride. That's 150 pounds of salt per regen cycle at about 90 regens per year, discharging at least 14,000 gallons a year, containing around 6 tons of salt. The water is then dispersed into the Madison Sewer District or sewage system that is not designed to remove the chloride from the wastewater. The salt then ends up in local water bodies, threatening freshwater life. The estimated total salt reduction into the Madison sewer system as a result of this project is approximately 11,745 pounds per year. So success factors. Initially, we estimated to have our automation system start the collection process when the salination of discharge water hit at 10% salinity, with understanding that we may have to make adjustments to this set point to ensure that we are capturing the necessary concentration to then be effective on roadways. The required percentage of salination to treat roadways is 22%. Or concentration, not salination. After attending the SaltWise training, we did learn that 1 teaspoon of salt contaminates 5 gallons of water. By reusing the brine, we can more easily control the amounts of salt that is applied, as we can regulate the concentration of chloride in the brine to only the minimum amount necessary to melt ice. At this configuration, we expect to reduce the amount of salt going into the sewer system to be about 900 pounds or more a month. This is our initial design that Bob had come up with. Our initial design here starts with our water softeners. There are actually 2 sets, one for the building and one for our cooling towers that run our cooling system in the summer. We will be collecting all year long, all year from our building softeners, and have approximately 5 months of collection from the cooling towers. When the water softeners regenerate the salt water rich with calcium chloride, it is sent through a discharge pipe to the sewer drain. In our design, we put a conductivity meter in the pipe that is connected to an automation system that tells a 3-way valve to open and divert the discharge to a 400-gallon holding tank that is equipped with float meters that tell the system to divert to a reverse osmosis system, saltwater filtration system. At the saltwater filtration system, the discharge is further filtered to extract clean water to the drain and concentrated calcium chloride water to a larger 10,000-gallon holding tank for later use. The 10,000-gallon holding tank would also be equipped with a float to turn off the collection if full, and if any overfill would go into the sewer. Any overfill would go into the sewer. Apologize for that. Of course, the whole principle of the system is to try to mitigate as much calcium chloride going into the sewer system. So hopefully we are able to use the brine before holding tanks were to overflow. The dashed line on this diagram, though, also shows the possibility in the future to be able to reuse the collected concentrated brine back into the water softener systems to reduce the amount of water softener salt we may have to purchase in the future. Of course, this part of the project, or this part, is out of scope of the current project, but is included to show a picture of what is possible with this system that we've designed. And to give you a little bit of information on water softener salt, we use approximately 30,000 pounds of water softener salt per year at a cost of around $5,000. So, eventually, if we get that far, we can have that cost savings as well. So our original costs included equipment to build the system at about $19,800 and an estimated cost of $1,700 to automate the system. The cost of automation included a control box and programming costs once the control box was set up and connected to the sensors. However, we were able to eliminate that cost as we got lucky and were doing a remodel in another building and was able to acquire that control panel that was in the other building, and also be able to roll the programming into a visit our vendor from Johnson Controls was doing for another unit. So we were able to piggyback on that service call, thus eliminating a $1,700 estimated cost from our original estimates. Although our current cost is only at $7,500, we are missing 2 components, and that is a larger brine spreader at a cost of about $6,000 and a large holding tank at about $6,000 to $8,000. The holding tank size is also going to be relevant to what we collect over a long period of time. Currently, we are using 300-gallon barrels, and until we know how much we use and don't use over the year, we aren't quite sure of how big of a holding tank we may need, or if the 300-gallon barrels we have would be sufficient. So our current layout is now only half of our original plan. We do not have the system connected to reverse osmosis that would further concentrate the salination of our brine and then send the brine onto the large holding tank. Our system currently runs through the discharge pipes, past the conductivity meters to the three-way valves, and then collects into 300-gallon holding tanks that have water level floats that will divert the three-way valve to divert back to the drain if the tanks are close to being full. However, we do check the tanks regularly, and with our automation system, we kind of have figured out when it's close to, and we'll talk about that in a minute. So we do have a small video to kind of show you all of our system here, and I'll kind of give you a description of what all these pieces are. So it starts with our, oh, it's going to be slow. It starts with our automation panel on the wall and our water softeners here, our discharge pipe there at the bottom. Right there is our conductivity meter that checks the salination in the water that's connected to that automation panel. And then over to our three-way valves that are connected at the drain. The conductivity meter is what tells these valves to open and close based on the salination of the water. It then when it's collecting, it goes into our pipe here over to our collection tanks that we have set up over in the corner. Right now we have these 300-gallon cage tanks that we can move around with the skid loader, which makes it kind of easy. And here on top is our cap designed with our float to check the levels of the tank so they don't overfill and it diverts right back to the drain instead of spilling out over our floor there. So our automation system, as I said before, it starts there with our control panel that we have set up. And then our automation system is set up with the control panel, the conductivity meters, and a three-way valve located at the drain. The conductivity meter tests the water as the water softener regenerates and tells the three-way valve when to open and divert water to the holding tank based on the salination percentages we have set the conductivity meter to indicate. Our automation system can also track the regen cycles, salination points, times, and dates of the regenerations. As you can see from the chart in red, during a regen cycle, we can see where the conductivity meter is registering salination of the water as it goes by the meter, therefore telling the system when to open and shut the three-way valve. It also gives us information on highest salination points before dropping back to the original set point, telling the valve to divert back to the drain. So our first collection was on November 16th at approximately 85 gallons. We had our original set point for collection set at 10% salination, but after the first collection sample, the sample of the brine tested at 36% on the salometer. which equaled about 9.5% concentration. Since we need a 22% concentration for effectiveness to melt ice, we adjusted the set point to start collecting at a 4.5% to increase our concentration. We do regularly check the holding tank concentration and make adjustments as necessary. Right now, it takes approximately 4 regenerations to fill our 300-gallon tank, which can take anywhere from 4 to 6 weeks to fill. As you can see on the chart, the regions are based on water usage. And if you look at our dates on the chart, from January 11th to January 15th, it was only 4 days between regenerations. But from January 15th to January 24th, there were 8 days between regenerations. Currently, our buildings are also at minimum capacity due to our pandemic policies, and we are not at our highest water usage. Originally, we had calculated that our system regenerates approximately 90 times in a normal year, and expect to collect from just one building approximately 7,600 gallons of brine over the course of the year. However, if you remember my mentioning earlier that we also have this set up on our cooling tower water softeners that we couldn't start collecting from before we shut down our cooling systems for the summer. This will add considerably more brine when we are able to capture and calculate how much our cooling towers are producing. So after collection of the brine, we are using it on the roadways around campus to eliminate the use of rock salt. We are currently working with a smaller brine spreader meant to be used for smaller application than roadways. However, we plan to purchase a larger brine spreader for the truck and will utilize the smaller one connected to one of our gators to apply on sidewalks throughout the campus. Last year, Kevin started making brine with pre-treated rock salt that allowed us to get a projection on the amount of salt brine we utilized on the campus throughout the winter season. We used approximately 600 gallons of brine on the roadways last year. Since we began collecting in November, we have already collected almost 600 gallons. If you remember from our earlier calculations, we expect to have at least 7,600 gallons of brine from one set of water softeners over the course of the year, considerably more from our cooling towers in the cooling season. We are already producing more brine than we will be able to currently utilize. However, we have been in touch with the UW and DA in our area and have spoken with them about sharing our excess brine so that nothing goes to waste. So, although we intend to try to phase out salt altogether, we still order rock salt. In 2020-2021 winter season, we ordered about 14 tons of rock salt that Kevin started mixing to create brine before our system was set up and running. We saw great results with reducing the rock salt just by turning it into brine and pre-treating the roadways. We were able to return 4 yards of rock salt, receiving a $780 credit to be used on our order for this year. Now that we have been collecting brine, we started the season this year with an order of 6 yards of rock salt and have barely used a yard of it as Kevin has been using our collected brine to pre-treat roadways. Hopefully by next year, we will be closer to eliminating that cost altogether. So our results, we've only had 2 snow events as of date since we started collecting brine in which to be able to test our brine. These are pictures of our snow event on January 23rd. The brine concentration was optimal and effective at melting the snow and preventing ice from forming. And that's what we've got for you today. So if there are any questions, Me or Kevin or Bob would be happy to answer anything.
Great. Thank you, Kathy. And I would ask Kevin, if you wouldn't mind just popping in and speaking for a minute. I know Kathy just showed those photos of the parking lot, but could you talk a little bit about how this brine is working for you?
Yeah, actually, since we started, like I said, like Kathy said, last year I started making my own brine with a bag of pre-treated salt, split up into barrels. Actually, I was using probably only a 7% salination, but it's still, we had great results. I would get done plowing, come back, and I could already see where the pavement was already melted. What the plow didn't get, the pavement was already melting. So yeah, I've been loving the results. And like those pictures that she had, that was our lot from, I believe, the snow on Saturday, the 23rd. Yep. No, Sunday the 20th. No, yeah, it was Saturday the 22nd. We came in that Sunday morning and got done plowing everything, came back to the lots, and yeah, what the plow didn't get was already melting off. So, I mean, part of that was probably because it was 8 o'clock and the sun was out. So with the combination of the brine and the sun, yeah, it's great results. I have not had to touch my salt spreader lever once, except for the snow on Monday, the 24th, where it was during the day and people were driving on it and packed it down. I couldn't get brine down that Sunday because the roads were still wet. So the only time I actually had to lay down a little bit of salt was the 24th. So, but other than that, I love the brining.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kevin. All right, so we do have a few questions that have come in on the chat, and I'll just read them and let you guys decide who wants to field each of the questions. So the first one is, do you have power backup for the automation system, or what are your defaults should something cause an error in the system?
Bob
Yeah,
can
I can
answer
take
this. We've had this discussion. I've actually had to ask myself, I'm like, okay, so what do we do if this happens?
Yeah, no, we don't have a power backup on the building automation system. And if we do lose power, basically our softeners will also not have power. But let's say it does get caught, the default, if we lose power to that three-way valve, is closed. There's a spring return on it. So if we lose power at all, that three-way valve has its spring closed shut, which is back to drain. So ultimately, if all else fails, it'll just go back to drain and we'll lose out on that brine. But I saw that the lesser of two evils.
Yeah, all right, thank you. All right, another question, where do you get the small brine applicator for the gator?
Kevin, you got this one.
Actually, Bob purchased it through Granger. I'm not sure what the cost was, but I told him we could start brining, and so he went to Granger, found it, and got it. But then we realized after going to actually SnowX website, like, oh, they actually do make one for the truck, and this one's actually probably for a gator. So that's when we started looking at M&W Enterprises to get the VSS 2000 SnowX briner. But yeah, Bob purchased it through Granger.
I can give you that cost. Give me 1 second. It was $2,200 for that brine spreader, the smaller one.
All right, thank you. All right, another question. What is the concentration of the brine directly off the tank?
Yeah, if you're talking about the collection tank coming off the softeners, it's 9% concentrate. And one of the things where we always get confused, it's 9% concentrate, but on the salometer meter, it's 33%. So depending on which one you use, but we're going with 9%.
Okay, but you're saying 33% salinity, but like 9% concentrated? It's like,
Yeah, yeah, correct.
All right, so we've got a question here from Adam. Says, I'm a small contractor who uses less than a ton of salt annually. My impulse is to collect from my home softener. What do you perceive as barriers to this being practical?
It is pretty small, your softener, but what I would do would sort of help us out. I mean, anything you can capture. When we first started looking into this, I would go back to your softener rep. There is a softener rep. I'm not endorsing them, but there's actually a person from Hellenbrand that actually they actually do this, as far as I know. And Hellenbrand actually makes a system, and there's two ways you can do it. There's one way, like we did it, where you can actually monitor the salination coming out of your softener, or you can do it by a timer, which to me is the cheapest way of doing that. I don't know how that all entails. I'm guessing it's another mechanism once it starts flowing down the drain. I'm guessing it times, because all these softeners, if you look at the manuals, they have like a timer. They know about how long it's in backflush. They know how long it's in regen. They know how long it's in forward flush and reverse flush. So I'm not too familiar with that, but that was one of the solutions, is just to use a timer. So maybe that would be a solution for a homeowner, something that's simple to use some type of timer. But I would recommend probably going, looking online, and definitely reach out to like your softener manufacturer. It would be worth a shot.
Okay, so nothing against the Steve Brown guy, but you could probably just do like he did, is just put a hose on the PVC pipe from the water softener that went to the drain and just redivert it into a barrel if he has a barrel available.
Well, and I'll put the Steve Brown Apartments facilities manager has a PDF report of their brine reclamation system, which has been going on for 4 or 5 years now. So I'll share that in the chat. So thanks, Kevin, for that. I'll put that so others can take a look. All right, so it looks like another question here. Are you having to add more salt to raise the concentration level of the discharge, or are you just using what you've collected?
I'm not sure Bob is, but I don't believe he is, but we're just using what he's been collecting, and been having so far great results.
Just kind of input. So far we've only had 2 snow events, like I said, to kind of monitor the effectiveness of our salt brine since we started collecting in November. As we go further, being able to monitor how well it's working and everything, that's when we're going to be able to also, monitor the salination or the concentration of our tanks as well. If it's not showing effectiveness, then we can go back and look at, what the concentration is in our tanks. That's where our larger holding tank really comes into effect, as well as being able to hold it instead of small little tanks that we're doing right now. When we get a larger holding tank, then we've also discussed plans about how we keep that concentration down, evaporating the water out of those tanks over the year as it goes along. And like I said, as we're just finally starting to collect, so we don't have a lot of that information yet, but we have looked at, what the different options of what we're going to have to possibly look at and do, especially, evaporation and monitoring that concentration for effectiveness.
All right. Looks like there's a question. What program are you using to track the usage from your softener?
We're using our building automation system, and it's Johnson Controls. That's just who we have. So.
All right. And we've got, I should share also some feedback here came in. Thanks so much. Amazing project, exclamation point. I'm looking through, I don't see any other questions right now. Although I did miss one here. Did you have to install brine reclaim on the softeners before or as a part of this project?
Did we have to add brine reclaim?
Yeah,
Beef.
before or as a part of this project?
Yes, I guess Catherine can speak to that, because I guess part of the reason was the grant, and part of the grant was to put in a reclaim system. So yeah, as you know, we had to use the money to put in a reclaim system, but we had the softeners already. So and also with the advantage of getting some money towards it, that's, you know, made the decision a little bit easier to tackle.
So yeah, the reclaim was initially, you know, all started because of you know, the salt brine, wanting to be able to capture that salt brine. So adding all of this, the reclaim system to our water softeners, it wasn't necessarily, we didn't have to do that. It wasn't something that was part of, you know, government regulation or whatever. It was just part of this, you know, started out, you know, with Kevin going to that saltwise seminar and class, and, you know, hey, this is a great idea. And especially with us here at the Forest Products Lab, you know, we're really about, you know, conservation. I mean, that's what we are, not just Forest Products Lab, but Forest Products or Forest Service, sorry. I mean, that's really one of our foundations is conservation. And, you know, this is, we just love the idea of being able to jump on this and be, you know, a leader in doing this reclaim and, you know, trying to get that salt out of our waters, especially around Madison. We have a lot of water systems and waterways, and it was just a great project for us to jump on and show, you know, our concern and for the environment and be one of those leaders to kind of, you know, say, hey, yeah, we can do this.
All right, we do have, we've got another question here that came in. Judd has asked, do you have to filter out any particulates that the softeners have picked up?
I would say no, but I know Kevin, we did add a strainer when we do draw the brine out, and he puts it into his in his spreader. And yeah, there's always a possibility, I guess, to pick up some stuff. But Kevin, have you seen anything?
No, I have not. But it does, that strainer does make it, when I'm putting the salt into the applicator, it does make it like kind of foamy. So, but that's about the only thing I got. But no, I haven't, last couple of times I've filled the applicator, I've taken the thing, there's nothing in there. And the filter actually now on the brine applicator itself is pretty much salt free. Because before, when I used to make it myself, I'd always get a bunch of salt from the pump, and so they would plug up that filter. So now I haven't had that problem.
And actually, it makes a lot of sense to me because I think the salt that people generally get for water softeners is cleaner. Maybe that's an assumption I'm making compared to what people might be buying for road salt with more just dust and particulate matter in it already. All right. So let's see here. I don't see any other questions that are coming in. I'm going to give people a minute because some folks didn't join right at the hour. And I'll share, Kevin just sent me another photo here. Let's see if I can pull that up again. Too many screens though. Okay. All right. So Kevin, do you want to tell folks what we're looking at here?
Yes, this is one of the roads in our campus. It's on the west side of Building 29. And so this is taken after, again, I got done plowing. And at the bottom, you can see where there's still a little bit of snow built up, but the rest of the road in the parking lot down below, up at the top, is all just melted off from what the plow couldn't get. So again, the results are amazing. And again, I did not have to apply any salt to that road.
So no like rock salt afterwards, you're saying just the pre-treatment?
Nope, negative. Like I said, I think last year after I started brining, I never had to touch my salt spreader lever once. Because that would be the result I'd get.
Awesome. All right, another question here. How many gallons per regen are you getting?
That was at about 85 gallons per regen right now is what we're getting, give or take. That was our initial estimate. We didn't really weigh it after we made an adjustment to reduce, but that's our average, around 85 gallons, give or take probably 5 or 10.
Yeah. And I would say, I mean, definitely varying, by size of softener, right? Like you guys have some pretty big softeners. I'm trying to think from those photos, like what are they, like 8 feet tall? Fairly big around. I've seen larger, but they're pretty good size.
I think they're 10 cubic feet each. They're a tandem unit.
All right. Another question. This is for you, Kevin. Have you been able to calibrate your brine applicator? And if so, can you talk about that process?
I just calibrated it to the instructions that came with it. They said to just set the PSI to 30. On the back, there's a valve. I just make sure I kind of get it set at 30, and away I go. I usually it's a manual truck, so I'm usually in second gear going down through the lots and the roads. And it seems to put on like the middle picture of Kathy's PowerPoint slide, that one picture in the middle. That's the lines I get, and they look about the the right, from what I've seen from Matt's pictures when we did that one seminar. They look they're about the right width, and
okay, but not necessarily like collecting like the brine after letting it run for a certain period of time. Just, you said, making sure your PSI is on.
Yeah, I just came with the manual, and it said to set the PSI to differ. So I went with the manual, the diagram in the manual, and set it to what it said, the recommended. So
okay,
that's all. That's about all I did.
Okay. All right, we've got another question here. Are you doing direct liquid application post-event? So are you putting any liquid down after the snow event? It sounded like you were only pre-treating, right? And plowing, and that's it?
Yeah, I do. I put down the brine pre-event as the anti-icing, and I haven't had to put down anything after. No rock, no pre-treated salt, nothing after. Everything melts right off.
All right. Well, that's what I have here for questions right now. Does anybody else, Kathy, Bob, did you have anything you wanted to add? I guess come in.
I just wanted to kind of say, that was a good question, because I actually asked that of Kevin yesterday, because I was more interested on the, just so that we could clarify if somebody was to ask. But I asked him, I was like, have we seen any re-icing afterwards? How, all of that melts and the temperature drops, and seeing if anything re-ices after that. And he assured me, like, from what he can tell, it just melts off and dries off, and away we go. So it's been very effective.
Great. Well, thank you all so much. for your time today and all the time that has gone into this project and getting to this point. And I'm sure as you have more data coming in, it'll be great to kind of be kept in the loop. And we had about 50-ish people. It says 76 playbacks right now. So I'm sure that this webinar will continue to ripple out. Hopefully people will continue to share the link and we'll get more questions, and who knows, maybe we'll make a little video about this, get some more resources and really help it catalyze brine reclamation in Wisconsin and across the US. So thank you for being some of the first.
Awesome. Thank you for having us, Allison.
Yes.
Yes,
Okay, we
thank
do
you for having us.
one more question just popped in here. Any comments or complaints from other staff, like custodians? Just wondering if, because you're not putting granular salt down, maybe there's less tracking into the building. Has anyone said anything about that change?
I guess I can put some input on that. Like I had mentioned, currently we are at minimal staff in the building. So we're not fully staffed with the COVID and everything. We're kind of in a maximum telework status. So anybody who can telework is teleworking. And then we have building staff that come in and out, but we are not at maximum capacity. We're not even at a quarter capacity right now, especially during the winter months. But we haven't really had any more comments, regarding this, so much as, noticing anything. And I would say with half the staff being gone most of the time, a lot of our staff doesn't even know that this project has been put in place.
Right.
So we like I said, people don't know. Even our staff doesn't even know we've been doing this, with us just being starting collecting in November, and then our minimum amounts of snow days that we have had, and they've been on weekends. I don't think anybody's even really noticed.
Yeah, because most of the people that are here are RFE, and all they know, pretty much the RFE guys, all they know is we have a briner, but I'm not even sure if they even know where it's coming from or.
Yeah, I would at least add it. I think it's improved as far as when we used to use a lot of rock salt. I've noticed, going into buildings, if you go to any buildings during the winter, they normally have these big mats. And that's one of the first things that you see is that thing is just lined with salt during the winter, especially after snow events. So I have noticed at least those mats being cleaner. And it, I guess you could either think, we've got less people here, but I know just coming off of my feet, off of my experience, coming in off of the parking lots, I notice I don't have a lot of salt on my boots or tracking it in on the mats like we used to before.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep.
All right. I'm afraid I'm going to say something, then we'll get another question. But I think at this point, we're close to time here. And so we'll call it good. If any other questions do come in, I can direct them to you guys. And yeah, thanks again so much. Enjoy the rest of your day.
So be seeing you probably in the fall when I have to do another Saltwise course.
Bye, everybody.